Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our presentation here at the Family Cafe. Did we give this gentleman the... Thank you so much. Good morning. I just want to make sure you had the things that we were passing out. My name is Drew Andrews. I'm the Assistant Director and Technical Assistance Coordinator at the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. And Dr. Janice C. Brooks Blackmore is our Executive Director. She's not here this morning, but I'll let my other co-worker introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Iris Neal. I am the Program Manager for Outreach Coordinator for the Center.
We're so glad that you're here. Today, we're going to do an overview of the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. Our agenda, we're going to, of course, give an overview. We're also going to talk about Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition programs. I know that both of these terms are a mouthful, but I try to follow the legislation very closely because we were created by legislation. And the term Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program is very specific to our programs. I'm sorry for the blinking in the screen. It's blinking just a little bit. But we're also then going to talk about college and career transition clubs. And that's something that we've initiated to help students in schools know more about what there is available in post-secondary programs whenever they leave high school. And then we're going to talk to you about our college showcase. And FPCTP stands for Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program. And so FPCTP College Showcase, because on our website we have a college showcase of all of our programs. So the Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program Act, which was passed in 2016, has four major areas. I'm a special ed teacher, a high school special ed teacher, so I'm going to give you that strategy. Hold up those four fingers so you can remember there are four things that we're going to remember, okay? The first, it established the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities at UCF. So we are the state coordinating center. It also established Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs. Some of the best written legislation I've ever read. I had nothing to do with the legislation. I was hired shortly after to work with Dr. Kohler, but the legislation is so clear and so well that our programs perfectly align with federal CTP, which is Comprehensive Transition and Post-Secondary, or called CTP, you may have heard that term before, programs. And that means students can access federal financial aid if their program is a federal CTP program. But better than that, and this is just I'm a native Floridian. Any of you all native Floridians? Okay, about half. Okay, about half of us. Well, I'm a seventh generation Floridian, so we've been here a long time. And I think this is some of the best legislation ever passed because you see this next part, you see those dollars down there? Funding was set aside to be able to support this. So there are funds for scholarships for students to participate. So if a student enrolls in a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program, automatically they receive a scholarship unless they request, no, I don't want the scholarship. And that scholarship's $7,000. Now, it also funds startup and enhancement grants to IHEs. Now, an IHE is an institution of higher education. That means a university, that means a state college, that means a technical college. That also means a private, not-for-profited, accredited, and Florida Resident Access Grant eligible institution, such as many of the private not-for-profit colleges and universities that we know of. Yes?
Is that $7,000 scholarship, is that a one-time scholarship or is that an annual?
Annual. Thank you so much for asking. That's a very good question. It's an annual scholarship. Those scholarships are funded through the financial aid office. It's a scholarship just like any other student would receive a scholarship. So if there are any dollars left after classes have been paid for, books have been paid for, lab fees have been paid for. You know what all those college fees are that are there. Students receive that money. Students receive any of the dollars that are left. Now, if they're at a technical college, $7,000 does it. There's money left over. If they're at a private, not-for-profit college or university with a residential component, it's not going to do it. It's not going to cover it. But remember, that's one funding source. There's also that federal financial aid. And with that, I'm talking about the student completes FAFSA, the financial aid for families and students. So they complete that, and they can receive a Pell Grant, they can do work study, all of the things that you can do with financial aid. The only thing that it doesn't allow them to take out a loan. But they have access to all of the free money that comes to them. And then, of course, we also know that there are agencies that can support students in post-secondary education if that post-secondary education is aligned with a career. Now, these startup and enhancement grants that I talked about, if an IHE, whew, I almost fell right there. You all would have had a good laugh here on Sunday morning. If an institution of higher education completes an application to create a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program, that is their program application. But what do we need for programs to start? People. And how are you going to get people to work? Money. You're going to need money. That's where this comes in. Two different things. There's a program application and there's a grant proposal. That grant proposal, up to $300,000 a year to implement an approved program. So what do you have to do first? Have an approved program. Then they can have money to be able to implement that program so that they can hire, just like the individual said in the audience, so that they can hire staff. They can hire a job coach. They can hire instructional support. They can hire a coordinator. They can pay mentors if they want to do that, because most of these programs all have mentors that are there to support. We know that students with intellectual disabilities need additional support at post-secondary education. So, what is the purpose of a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program? To increase independent living, inclusive and experiential post-secondary education, and employment opportunities for students with intellectual disabilities through post-secondary education programs. That statement gives you a lot of information right there. Remember, these are post-secondary programs, and they're for students with intellectual disabilities. But I'm going to tell you more. And you see here, those are students in one of the programs at a technical college, and I think that they're in the culinary arts program or the baking and pastry program. So now I'm going to tell you about eligibility. We're going to first talk about eligibility of institutions. So that includes public and private institutions of higher education, not-for-profit, accredited, universities, state colleges, technical colleges, and private colleges that are not-for-profit. How many would that be in the state? How many would you guess that is in the state if you added all those up? How many institutions of higher education do we have in this state? No, you're thinking big, but no, that's just our programs right there on that list. Somebody else? Just give me 125. You are doggone close. Have you looked at our website? You would have, well, you would be over, so you wouldn't win the showcase. I'm telling you right now, because it's 120. It's 120 eligible institutions in Florida. Isn't that great? I didn't know that. I mean, I think of our universities, state universities, there's 13 of those. State colleges, the great 28, they call them, 28 state colleges, and of course many of them have multiple campuses. And then there's technical colleges, and I think there's 34 of those. A new one's going to be built this year, I understand, in Brooksville. They got funding for a new technical college there. And then there are all of those private not-for-profit. That would be like Southeastern University in Lakeland, Flagler College in St. Augustine, Rollins here in Orlando, Tampa University in Tampa, those types of institutions. Now, next are students. Students with intellectual disabilities attending in person. These are not online programs. They are programs intended to be on the campus. Now, have they been on campus this past year? No, they haven't. They had to, as resourceful as possible, try to keep everybody moving forward, and our programs have done a great job with that. And the students must have exited the K-12. Now, there have been many things, like there were TIPSID programs that started post-secondary programs here in the state. Huh?
Do homeschool kids count?
It's part of the legislation, and we reach out to homeschool students by going to the Florida Parent Educator Association conference to share information. Yes, students must have exited kindergarten through 12, and if that's through homeschool, then that's exiting K through 12, yes. So homeschool, private school, yes, all of those. The legislation honestly doesn't say that the student has to have a diploma. It says that students have to have exited K-12. Now, most of the programs require some type of a diploma saying that you've exited school. That could be a special diploma, as we know many students received a special diploma here in Florida for many years, or a standard diploma. The requirement is, well, I thought the next slide would share that they meet the federal guidelines for a student with intellectual disabilities. So, to tell you a little bit more about Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs, they focus on employment. Let me say that again. They focus on employment. This is not just a college experience. Although you get a college experience, it's not just being on a college campus. It's about having a goal, and although that goal may not be a degree, it has to be a meaningful credential. That is the term that's in the legislation, a meaningful credential. That may be an industry certification. Students must participate at least half time. So if 12 hours, in most institutions, 12 hours is full time, they must participate at least 6 hours, because students may need more time and they may not have the stamina to be able to handle the full 12 hours. But these programs are inclusive. Now, students may audit courses. Students may, in some cases, be taking courses for credit. Let me tell you, this is not an easy thing to coordinate. It's a complex web if you really get to looking at it, but the legislation laid it all out, and we're following here in Florida the same guidelines. Now, let me tell you, the rest of the nation is jealous, because although there are comprehensive transition programs in all of the other states, no state has taken the stand, and I mean, that's why I'm excited about what Florida has done, to create an act that even supports this even more and set aside funding to be able to support this even more. Florida's the only state. Actually, Senator Gardner has been asked to share in Ohio at a conference there, because they want to know, how did you get your legislators to do this? How did you get this done? I mean, this is something really wonderful for students with intellectual disabilities, but before they didn't have an opportunity to go to post-secondary education. Now there are opportunities there. It requires a definition of satisfactory academic progress, which is what students must meet at the college and university level. And it requires federal, again, what I mentioned earlier, comprehensive transition and post-secondary CTP program application be completed by the program, so students can get financial aid. That's all Title IV dollars coming down to students. You can look up on the FAFSA website comprehensive transition programs, and there's a list of every state, and in Florida it will show you, and all of those programs that you see there are all also our Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition programs, but they're all on the federal website, unless it's a new program. And our new programs that have not yet accepted students have 1 year to complete this process to become a federally approved program. So currently, 19 programs on 24 campuses. This map is on our website at fcsua.org. And so it's a great map where you can just click. And then you see a couple of yellow dots up there. Those yellow dots are other post-secondary programs that are not approved Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition programs, because the legislation requires that our center share information on all things post-secondary for all students. And so I was sharing with someone earlier whose child was not a student with intellectual disabilities. I said, if you want to know all of the contact information for any disability resource service office at an institution of higher education in Florida, being that list of 120 that we talked about, go to our website, and there's a list of eligible institutions, and you click on that and it'll give you the institution, it'll give you the contact person for the disability services office, it will also give you the contact information for any of these programs. But there's also a much easier way, and Iris is going to talk about that a little later, about our college showcase. So here we go. Universities. Anybody see their alma mater up there? Okay, cool. So FAU, they started in Jupiter and expanded to their main campus in Boca with their program. Because if you have multiple campuses, and I know you all may not be working at universities, but I'm just making sure that you understand how this works. There can be a program on multiple campuses. That's what they're doing. Florida Gulf Coast in Fort Myers, Florida International University, of course Miami, UCF, which is where we're located. Although we're the coordinating center, there's also a Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program at UCF also. University of South Florida, St. Petersburg, they'll be accepting students this fall, and then they're looking at possibly expanding to USF Tampa to have a program at both locations. And there, Southeastern University in Lakeland, again, one of those private, not-for-profit. It's also a religiously affiliated university, but in the legislation, 120 eligible institutions. Now, state colleges. Here we go. Do you see a state college that's near you? That is Broward College. They're doing their north and their south. North would be Coconut Creek. Am I right, Iris? North would be, is Coconut, Pembroke Pines. And then south would be, that's their north and their south campus for Broward College. College of the Florida Keys. They started in Key West, and then they are expanding to Key Largo. Now, if you haven't visited Florida, the College of the Florida Keys, you need to, because their dorms are on the water. So in my mind, I think, why did I not know this when I was going to community, because it was Florida Keys Community College. Why did I not know that earlier? I went to Lake City Community College, a great school, but it's in the middle of a pine forest, and I've seen pine trees all my life. And I went down there, and there that dorm sits, and there's the water. I mean, the water's right there. It's a great school. And I just say that because everybody knows that Key West is a place that lots of folks love to vacation. But they have a great program. Indian River State College. They were in Fort Pierce. They're expanding to their Vero Beach campus. St. Petersburg College, a huge state college in St. Petersburg. They have a program. Santa Fe College in Gainesville, and Tallahassee Community College in Tallahassee. Now, also technical colleges. Here we go. In Lee County, they applied for both of their technical colleges to become programs. Fort Myers Technical College, as well as Cape Coral Technical College. Lively Technical College in Tallahassee. And I don't know if any of you are from Tallahassee, but in Tallahassee, Lively Technical College and Tallahassee Community College, their campuses are neighboring. They adjoin. But the legislation says that there can be, and they're two different programs. Now, isn't that wonderful? Because there's different opportunities for the students that are there to choose if they want to go to Tallahassee, just like all students choose where they want to go to school. Do you want to go to Tallahassee Community College, or you want to go to Lively Technical College? McFadder down in Davie, that's Broward College, right under Sheraton. That's Hollywood. That's in same Broward County also. Robert Morgan Technical College there in Miami, one of our first programs. Orange Technical College in Winter Garden. Fort Walton Beach. Okaloosa Tech has just started a program there. Some of, yes,
I can't see, but is that Winter Garden part of the Orange County Public Schools?
yeah, mhm.
It is, okay.
It's that's in like the, out in the Ocoee area, but their address is actually Winter Garden. We looked up what their address is, but yes, it's part of the Orange County, because Orange County technical colleges are located in many places in Orange County. The legislation defines each technical college as an independent entity. So just that one technical college decided to start a program. And just to tell you something interesting, this is the way, if you've seen one Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program, then you've seen one Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program. Some are more narrow focused, some are very broad focused, like College of the Florida Keys, very broad focused. Fort Myers Technical Colleges, more broadly focused. Winter Garden at Orange Technical College, they have chosen welding and electric to be their two focus areas, because in that area there is a huge demand. And what did we say earlier the focus is for all of these programs? Employment. Employment is the goal for this. And they have companies, and that's how the technical colleges run. They have to be working with employers to meet the demands of employers in Florida. And they have employers right there that are waiting on students to complete those programs to be able to hire them as a welding helper or as an electrician helper. And once a student leaves with that certificate. Isn't this exciting stuff? I mean, isn't this great? Does it? I mean, it is. It's like, you know, Iris and I love what we do. I mean, because we've been educators all of our life. And we've worked with students that we knew after they exited our K-12 system at 22 needed something more. And they were ready for something more at that point, too. You know, not everybody is all set for life at age 22. In our population in general. And a lot of students just right there, that 20, 21, 22 area, it's fine. Adulthood's beginning to sink in a little bit, you know, and they're thinking about that. And so this is what's next after K-12. Now, a student can come after they exit at age 22, but a student might be ready to exit at age 20 and go ahead and start one of these programs so that they can get this credential and be able to be employed. So here we go. This is more information about those scholarships. They're available to eligible students attending the approved FPCTP. There is no application. The program sends in a spreadsheet of who the students are that are attending their institution, and all of those students receive a $7,000 a year scholarship and it comes through the financial aid office. And it can cover, here we go, here's some of the things and these are the things that we always see that scholarships cover: books, transportation, technology equipment, travel, like to Skills USA for those technical colleges. That's the competition. The students at Robert Morgan Technical College have nationally won awards. These are students participating in one of our programs have been able to nationally compete and win awards. It's just wonderful what's happening. But it's what happens when you tie together good instruction with a student's interest, and you provide that instruction in a way that they get that and it moves forward. Oh goodness, wow, I don't know what just happened. I'll go to the next slide. I'm not sure what. So now we're going to talk about how do we get information? Are there any questions about college and career, about Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs? Because next we're going to talk a little bit about how we're helping to get students at the high school level ready for Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs. Yes, ma'am.
How do we go about getting a local college to start a program?
Families are very important. And families are also powerful, as well as students. And these students are now young adults. They're powerful too. And one of the things that Family Cafe promotes is advocacy. And I myself wonder sometimes why folks aren't starting these programs. There's funding available. There's a structure available that's in legislation, and there's funding for students to attend. I mean, that's really all you need. I think it could start with just someone you may know at that state college or technical college to say, hey, do you realize what the need is? Because I think that we all know that students with intellectual disabilities going to college is relatively new. Now, yes, it's been around for probably 10 years now, but you know, that with the Higher Education Opportunity Act back in 2008, so that's maybe over 10 years. But it's relatively, and some folks aren't thinking that way yet. I mean, I guess, I don't know. But to share with them, to share with their board members, I mean, their board members are community folks that you should have access to share their directors, their administration, department chairs should be people you should have access to as a community member to be able to say, do you realize how many lives this would change? Because, and that's what we're trying to do on our website, is to share information so folks really see what's happening with some of these programs. Because how can you not do it when you see what's happening? I mean, if you look at our college showcase, and you hear some of the students talk about how this has changed. There was a young man who is here, and he said he was going to try to come to this presentation, and he came up, and his face was on one of our flyers. And he got his security guard certificate to be a security guard through one of our programs. And he said, that's me. I said, oh, we got to get a picture of you. So we got a picture of him by the table and the booth. For those couple of minutes, him sharing with me, I thought, I need to be recording this. He said, this program changed my life. He said, I want to go further. He said, I want to get the next level of security guard, and they don't offer it there. I said, well, if you'll email me, I said, we'll find out what school around you offers that next level of security guard. We'll find out, because I want you to know, because we want students to go further. Because if they've built, you build momentum. I was just going to get a bachelor's degree. And I said, well, I found out about the doctoral, the master's program that was offered. So I moved on and got my master's degree. And then someone suggested, hey, did you know there's it's always someone else saying it. Someone said, have you thought about getting your doctoral degree? I had never thought of getting my doctoral degree. And then eventually I completed it. It took me a while, but I completed it. And I'm like, it's all about starting the conversation. That's what I would tell you first. It's about starting the conversation with families, because amongst I believe that at every campus, there's a champion. There is someone there that wants to see this happen. And so look for who that person might be and start just talking this with other family members. Ask, who do you know? Somebody knows somebody. We all know that 6 degrees of separation, it usually isn't 6 degrees of separation. It's less than that. So just to talk with other families. You've had your hand up a couple times. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, concerning like the UCF, the USF, the Florida Gulf Coast, the major universities.
Yes.
Are they pretty much going to be 4 years for this population, or are they cut?
Very good question. Most times, no. Most times, no. They aren't the full 4 years.
Are they typically 2 years?
Typically 2 years. Okay. Most typically 2 years. Yes, they're most.
Degree do they get then?
They leave with a credential. Now, all of that, if you visit our website, which is, and we've got a flyer here that we can give you. If you visit our website and look at About Us and visit our annual report. Now, it is a long document, but I'm going to tell you the key. To go to the appendices, it shows you every certificate broken down and what's available. For instance, at UCF, it's a professional services certificate that students receive in either hospitality, business management, or early education. I think those are the three, or so maybe it's social services and not early education. It was early education, now it's social services, a certificate. At a technical college, that may be where a student receives an industry certification, and there are certain industry certifications like your safe serve food handler. There's a certificate that students can earn. There are also, we know that there are in welding, You may not know this. I shouldn't say we know. You may not know this. There are multiple levels of certification in welding. Well, the students in this program start out, they get a welding helper certificate. That's the basic. But we're not holding anybody back. If that student has come on board and they're going, every program knows that if a student wants to continue, let them continue. At Southeastern University, students come in and audit classes. They start auditing classes and they meet they're able to do all of they get credit, they can move and get credit for courses. I mean, it's really it's a step, it's access to higher education, and students are leaving with a meaningful credential. So sometimes it's just a certificate. It may be a certificate that talks about the occupational completion points that student has earned. But it's an opportunity for students to have, what we want is so that students have something in their hand that they can go to an employer and say, I'd like to apply for a job, and here's my credential. That person can look at that. I mean, most people don't do that. I mean, most people go and apply for a job. But for students with an intellectual disability, they can take this credential and say, this is what I'm prepared to do. These are the skills that I have. I can work for you. So that's how the legislation works. There we are. Are we back to, okay, we're back on there. Iris is now going to talk about college and career transition clubs.
Thank you. So I just want to add one thing about being a champion. When you're being a champion with trying to get a program started, approach it as a WYSIWYG. I'm sure everybody knows that little acronym, what's in it for me, and make it a positive aspect. What's in it for the university? What's in it for the state college? Not just what's in it for the person with a disability, but what's in it for that organization to be able to do these things. So we are new. We are, I said earlier we're toddler, but we're not. We're a preschooler. We're 5 years old as an organization. And so we're still getting the word out. And to have 19 to 24 programs on 24 campuses out of 120 in the last 5 years, and just getting this started, we're doing great. And this year we're supposed to try and get 30 programs. The pandemic really kind of threw that a little bit, but we are going for it. We're going for some new universities, some new state colleges, and such. One of the things that we found that we needed to do is approach the K-12 organizations, and to have something so that families could really know what's going on. And we hear you. We hear every day, I just didn't know what was out there. And sometimes the schools don't know. Sometimes the schools, with all their hour-long IEP meetings, they forget to bring up these things. But we're trying to get that information out to them. So we've started these college and career transition clubs. And the purpose of these clubs is to expand on opportunities for post-secondary education, not just for students with intellectual disabilities, but for students with other disabilities. It could be a learning disability, it could be a 504 student, it could be a student with autism, it could be a student with an emotional behavioral disability, any of those, and students with no disabilities, or no known disabilities, let's put it that way. So it's an inclusive type of setting that we want to start with these students. And it's to increase awareness of going to college, not just for for students who can typically get degrees, but also to encourage students that have an intellectual disability, that they can go to college too and have this opportunity. So we've partnered with secondary schools. They have to apply to start a club. just like any other club in a high school. So they have to send us an application with how they're going to run the club. It's not supposed to be something in a classroom where the students with intellectual disabilities are in their classroom and the students with no disabilities come in and mentor them. It is a club. It is an organization where they work on skills, just like Key Club and other clubs that they have in high schools. So, and you know, it's kind of, and he left. Nope. So we're going to wing this. So our membership, we've told you, is students with intellectual disabilities, students with other disabilities, and students without disabilities. And we have over 50 clubs right now in different high schools. If your high school does not have one, you can get a teacher to sponsor a club. We have the information on our website to apply for the clubs. So what do these clubs do? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Homeschooling, can you participate in these clubs that are attached to a public school?
Well, here's the deal with homeschooling and clubs and organizations and sports. Yes, you should be able to participate in club organizations at your local high school if you're a homeschool student. Just like any homeschool student can participate in sports, you can do that too. Now, check your policies in your school district, but my previous life, a decade ago, was with a school district, and yes, the students were eligible to participate. But you know, that's unique to each district, but it is in there in the legislation that are in the board policies that they can, yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you a secret. Drew told me this morning I was going to do this presentation, so I'm kind of like, okay, what's the next slide? Yes, ma'am.
Are private schools able to start a club?
A private school may start a club, but remember that it has to have the 3 criteria. It has to have students with disabilities, students with intellectual disabilities, and students without disabilities participating in the club. Okay, so if the private school is an inclusive type of setting, yes, they may start a club as well. Okay?
It's fixed hours.
It's fixed?
He found another adapter, so our screen won't be
Yay!
looking at us anymore.
Yay! Yay! So the idea of these clubs is to prepare students to go to college. It's to start them thinking about meaningful personal goals. Now, I don't know about you, but at 14, 15, 16, and 17, thinking about personal goals and my future really wasn't on my mind at that age. And when I've worked with students, it's not on their mind either. It's like, how do they know what they're going to do? But it starts to focus them on their personal goals. Providing choices for post-secondary education. Many students are first-generation college students, and so we want them to be aware of the opportunities. There are so many scholarships out there for first-generation students that it's important for anybody to get out there and know it, and for our students with intellectual disabilities to learn about the opportunities for them. And then, you know, when we're building these clubs with the intellectual disability, the students with other disabilities, and then the students that do not have known disabilities, we're building an inclusive community. We're building that equity that we are so desperate to have in our community now. So we do have some learning outcomes that we want students to get when they're in these clubs. And we want them to be able to learn things, but in a club setting. And this is through different activities that they can do. We expect them to document their activities. We expect them to to go for these learning outcomes, but we also know that students may have varied abilities to do things. And so we don't say, oh, you got to have 100%, you know, this is going to be graded, blah, blah, blah. No, we don't do that. We just want them to approach it and have the students have awareness and begin that awareness, maybe a little bit more knowledge base as they grow through the club. They're going to start looking at career goals. They're going to look at, okay, you know what? I have an interest in gardening, or I have an interest in working in the marine business. And then they get on a boat, you know, and I'm sure that this has happened down at the Florida Keys College because they have a marine program there. And, you know, the first time a student gets on a boat and they get those knocky knees, I'm sure that some of them are not very happy about that. And then that experience of, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, and then all of a sudden they're seeing blood and smelling things that they don't particularly like to smell. That may knock out that nursing or that desire to work in a hospital. So it's just becoming aware of those ideas of, okay, maybe this isn't the right career for me. I had a student that wanted to work in horticulture, and the minute he got dirt underneath his fingernails, he said, this isn't for me. No, I don't like that. So they start looking at what kind of career do they really want? What's their interest? And you know schools do these interest inventories, but this is just taking it and exploring it with other students. And then looking at, okay, so this is a career that I want. Let's say it's the welding career. Where can I go to school? What kind of school am I going to go to? What kind of degree am I going to have? What kind of money am I going to be making? And that's a big one. It's like, you know, they think that they're going to be millionaires. I think every kid thinks they're going to be a millionaire. So the student learning outcomes also, we want them to be able to know how to get supports and understand their self-advocacy needs. You know, how do I ask for help at these places? How do I advocate for myself? How do I tell somebody I need them to repeat something? So we start working on those self-advocacy skills too. And everybody can use that. I can use that still. Another outcome is looking at careers, looking at the post-secondary, looking at the characteristics of the program. Do I want a big school? Do I want a small school? Do I want a private school? Do I want a school that has a religious background to it? What kind of institution do I want to attend? Do I want to be close to home, or do I want to get far away from my parents and live down in Key West and go to school? Those type of things. And I'm sure if you were going to college or when you were thinking at 18, it's like, okay, what things do I want to do? Do I want to be near my family, or do I want to go away? Those were the criteria as we looked at schools too. We also want the students to be able to apply. And, you know, we've gone from paper applications to online applications. And online applications just have another level of stress to them than that paper application, because you don't know what's going to be on the next page. And so just preparing them on how to do those applications. What information do I need? What information do I need to have handy with me right then? Because some of them are timed. And if you don't have all your stuff, your references, your background information right there handy with you next to your computer, you're going to be timed out and you're going to have to start all over again. So we want them to be able to do that. We want them to be able to create a resume. And a first-time resume is totally different from a resume of somebody like Drew who has a doctorate degree. So we want them to be able to present themselves in a manner for them to start thinking about working and getting those first jobs, even if it is a volunteer job. And then interviewing skills. Interviewing is probably the hardest thing, and the hardest question that I have observed students not being able to answer is, tell me about yourself. Tell me about why do you like this company? And being able to answer those basic interview questions. So we have in these clubs, business partners that come in and help students do mock interviews, that help them to understand that whole process of interviewing. So that's another piece of this we want them to learn. So the other piece is that teamwork, planning, your strategies, your organization skills. And all high school students need to work on organization skills, no matter what. I can't say anything else. And self-advocacy. So those are things that we all want our students to learn. So the application is on our website. We do fund these programs for schools. Our schools can get up to $3,000 a year right now to have a club. And that money is to pay for a stipend for teachers, because our expectation, our desire is that these clubs happen as an extracurricular activity, and all extracurricular activities in a high school, they do get paid a supplement. So we want them to get their supplement. We want to be able to provide them materials that they can use to teach these skills in a team-like, club-like environment. And we also want them to visit our programs. We want them to go to see what is the College of the Florida Keys. We want them to go see IES at UCF. We want them to see UMatter at Tampa, USF Tampa, or Okaloosa. We want them to go to these places and see these programs. And even in Tallahassee, think about it. So we have them visit all the schools in Tallahassee, go to FSU to see the Office of Students with Disabilities. Even though FSU doesn't have a program for an FPCT program, the other students can learn about how to advocate for themselves. And then go over to TCC and to Lively Tech and see those programs as well. So schools, share this information with your districts, with the people in your schools. How many of you guys are still connected with a K-12? Okay, so you guys talk to your IEP person who's working with it, and see if that person can help. A guidance counselor, can help. A school administrator can look to see if they can start a club. We fund them for 2 years. And, again, they have to recruit inclusive students. So it is on our website. The club applications are up on our website now, and they are due at the end of August. And we put it at the end of August this year because we know school starts probably maybe mid-August. So the teachers that could be sponsors will know by then what the restrictions are with the pandemic for the school year. Oops, let's go backwards.
Is there a list of the ones that already have clubs on your site too?
No, we do not have a list of the schools, but that's a good idea for us to do.
That would really help. Yeah, because if we're homeschool kids, you have to be able to. We have no clue.
Okay, that's a good point.
We could put a list on our website.
Yeah.
Where all the clubs are. Good, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, thank you.
And the thing is also, it encourages schools to do it because there is, let's just be honest, there is the competition. And when other schools see, oh, this school is doing this, why aren't we doing this?
Right.
It does help with getting things, more of them.
Yes, it does.
Because then all of a sudden they're thinking, oh, well, wait, I didn't know that all these schools are doing these things, and why aren't we doing it?
Yes, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
I think this might be kind of a neat thing for my son's school, but the sticking point that comes to my mind is transportation home. Because from what I've seen in our district, there is no transportation for special needs that stay later than the school hours. Is that typical of other that you work with, or have you ever run into that, or do most districts have transportation for some of the special needs kids for, leaving school an hour or two late if they want to stay for a club?
I think that's a good point to make, and And that's something to bring up to the administration because, you know, the schools are responsible for being inclusive. I don't want to start any mess.
They may have to just include it during the school day.
Or it may be that the transportation may be with the other clubs or the other transportation for other students too, rather than a single bus going. It may be a bus that is used for other organizations.
Have you seen that in the ones you work with? Is that ever a
I've not seen a school district provide specific transportation because it's a student's choice to stay.
Right.
And any other student, it's their choice to stay and their responsibility to coordinate transportation. And this is an inclusive club, so it would pretty much be
And
it's after
inclusive.
school, it's the student's choice, and they would most likely, it would be rare. I mean, yes, it would be wonderful if it was that way, but I have not seen that.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just like with the band. If the band is doing something, the bus is there, it takes the students home. So that would be the way it would work, I think. But I haven't been in a school district for 7 or 8 years. Drew hasn't been in one for 10. So that's going to be something that you need to talk to your school administrator about. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to go along with that point. I have a lot of kids, so if it was something where, because there is not transportation for any student or any after-hours thing, so if they gave it to the special needs or to this club, then they're also going to
They have to do it for all.
for everyone else.
Yeah.
So that's a whole
So I'm saying maybe during
universe
lunch,
that they're not going
once
Yeah.
a month or something like that, during lunch or something, or once a week.
And many of the clubs do meet during the lunch break, that 2-hour lunch period. Yes, ma'am.
Well, so like what you said, for one, if your school happens to have a longer lunch where they allow for extracurriculars to meet, then that works. But like I know in my kids' district, we do have the schools provide transportation 2 days a week, and that's meant to afford more families the opportunity to stay for tutoring or clubs.
Right.
And so making sure that they know that there is a need for, particularly it could be a certain type of bus that might be needed at some times, but making that is already something that's offered, and so making sure that it's just speaking up. In some cases, if your school district does that, and then that money can be found too, because if your school is not doing an extended bus service, even only 2 days a week, that's something that you as parents and teachers can look for creative funding through, because if your school is, for example, Title I or something like that, there are other ways to get funding for that too.
So I'm going to go ahead and move forward and talk about the showcase. The showcase we started last January because of the pandemic, and it is a virtual showcase of programs. And we have all of the colleges that have FPCTPs on our website. We'll do the showcase again this year where the students are not the students, but the organizations are there, and they present their program with the virtual video, and then they are there to meet with parents in a Zoom room. So this will be in January or February of 2021-22 school year. But the showcase, the videos right now of all of our programs are on our website. We have program guides to help you. So the program guides include questions to ask. It also includes things, your checklist of what you like about the program and not, and then it includes different key points about it, like the tuition cost, if we know that. So we also have the family-to-family toolkit that's coming about. This is for you. These are families talking to families about what college is about. So this will be on our website soon. We're hoping by the end of August. We're just having a few little technical things getting it together on the website with the videos. We also have, on the website now, we partnered with Think College and the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council to create College Matters. And this is on our website. These are in 2 places, under post-secondary education and under K-12, to help families and to help universities, to help schools learn about why it's important for college to be there.
It's good. Well, this is the Follow Us. Our time is almost done, but Iris has done a great job of creating a great Facebook page and Instagram. We're also on Twitter, not as much on Twitter as we are on Facebook and Instagram. And we also have a YouTube channel. And that means if we have presented, and over the last year we've presented a lot virtually, we've recorded those presentations because there's a lot of facets to what we're doing. And I know there are lots of questions. And just go to YouTube and search Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities, just like it's in your program, just like the title in your program. And you'll find all of our videos and all of that information there. So you've got YouTube channel to do that. FCSUA.org is our website, and there's lots of information, and we're continually adding to that. And then this is our email address at fcsua@ucf.edu, an easy way to contact any of us, or you see our phone number there. Then once again, here are our individual email addresses. You are more than welcome to contact us. That's why we're there. We're going to be here packing up for a couple of minutes, and if you have a question, we're happy to chat with you, answer any questions you might have. I know that there is a closing keynote that's going to be starting in a few minutes, and I did want to make sure to end on time. Thank you. I have never been to a final session and had this many people here in that session, so thank you, because it makes it a lot easier when you've got lots of folks to present to. Thank you so much. And Iris has some handouts. Thank you, Carla. We're glad you enjoyed it too. Thank you.